I awoke in a field. I'm not even sure if it was the same one, or if the other one had never existed at all. This field seemed so commonplace. She was gone, if she'd ever been there in the first place. From the moment she appeared, everything that followed had been surreal. Surely it was just a dream. What was this on my face? Something cool and soothing, sort of a poultice upon my cheek. I reached up and peeled it off. It clung to my fingers with leaves and sticky sap, and beneath, the skin felt raw and uneven. A scar would form. It hadn't been a dream. I remembered the burning sensation and felt against my cheek when the man had chased me. Some weapon thrown or fired had hotly scraped the surface, and a scar would form, reminding me of the deeper wound in the world. I was the determinant. I had been given the choice of whether or not to end this world, me and me alone. And despite all its cruelty, I had chosen to spare it, to give it a chance to do better, or worse. I was a determinant. I had been the determinant. Who was I now? I was a man in a field, a man dressed in tattered rags with one arm and a bleeding cheek. I was nobody. I had just made the most important choice in history, and the only one who knew it was me. Again, I was nobody. I don't think I even considered going back home. I didn't think about it. It wasn't a proper home. It was just a place that didn't belong to anyone else. That was because nobody else wanted it. And I realized, neither did I certainly never had any use for it. I always felt that if there were any gods, they'd long since abandoned me. But after meeting her, I couldn't ignore what I had learned. She'd spoken of choices made, worlds destroyed, second chances, and it all felt so unbearably real. No, I was not religious, but that doesn't mean I was unaware of a religion. There was one that came to mind. Their doctrine told of an exodus from a doomed world, one where man and dwarf, orc and elf alike, had all lived together before escaping to this one. They even went so far as to claim that the world we lived in was nothing more than a cheap shadow of the original. They called themselves the Cloister of the Echo. Rather depressing, really. I'd always dismissed their lore as fanciful nonsense. After meeting Narky, though, I felt I needed to keep a more open mind. I wandered unfamiliar streets in an unfamiliar city, and after a time, I'd made my way to a chapter house of the Cloister of the Echo. I raised my hand to knock on the ornate oaken doors. They had been painstakingly painted purest white. Was this in truth a holy place? And there I stood, with my grubby, crooked hand. It almost seemed wrong to touch the door with it. I was not alone in this estimation.
Filthy human, not touch door.
It wasn't clear to me if I was being insulted on a racial level or one of personal hygiene. 7 foot tall and seemingly just as wide, a great orc stood off to the side, clad in gray robe. He was admittedly hard to miss, but I had mistaken him for a statue. The orc was leaning on a broom, which seemed more feather duster in his meaty hands. It was a small wonder that he didn't want me to touch anything, if he were in charge of cleaning the place. The orc sauntered over without urgency and glared at me the whole time. Eventually, he stood in front of me and pushed the doors open.
In,
spoke the orc, and the voice did not leave much room for argument. I entered as commanded, and the orc rudely slammed the door behind me, returning to the business of cleaning or being a statue or whatever it was that had interrupted him. There were others shuffling their way around the property. They seemed mostly to be orcs, which was not something that I considered to be unusual. For all their strength, the orcish people were unusually spiritual and quite keen on ideas such as meditation, prophecy, and the study of the heavens. The cloister of the Echo was like a beacon to orc kind. It was quite a change from the slums in which I had lived, where local orcs were known only for ferocity and brutality, but then the slums tended to attract a certain quality of individuals as well. The chapter house consisted of several buildings, focused across a square courtyard. The word cloister itself referred to the covered walk that extended around the courtyard on all sides. In the center of the courtyard rose an old, gnarled tree, surrounded by many tiny versions of it. These small versions were bonsai trees, bonsai cultivation being another focus activity that orcs seemed to enjoy. An elderly orc matriarch hovered over one of the bonsai trees with an inelegant-looking pruning device. Inside of me on the walkway, she beckoned me to come to her.
"Hail, traveler,"
she said in a much clearer voice than I would have expected from an orc.
"Hail and well met. Welcome to the cloister of the Echo. Come and see, come and see."
She gestured to the tree before her. It was wrapped in various places with wire or with fabric, and it had twisted and turned in many directions, but a steady regimen of pruning had kept it small. The orc lady considered the small tree for a minute, finally taking her shears and snipping off a tiny branch that had started to grow. I glanced at my own slump arm impulsively. Shears and scissors tend to make me a touch uncomfortable. The ancient orc matron flashed what might have passed for a grin. Her mouth was particularly devoid of teeth.
"Very nice,
she stated.
You know, they're all the same age. The tree there, and these ones."
She gestured to the large tree in the courtyard and the 4 bonsai that surrounded it.
"Sprouted from the same stack of seeds, they are,"
she went on.
"Long before your time, of course. Before mine, too, if you believe it."
I wasn't sure I did believe it. Her face was as ancient and wrinkled as any orc I'd ever seen. "They don't really look the same," I ventured with a shrug.
"Ah, a skeptic,"
crooned the old hag with a hint of glee.
"Rare enough humans visit us, or the doubting one at that. Very good, very good."
Why is that good? I don't understand. I didn't understand. To my mind, religious orders should only be interested in the blind and the devout.
"A doubtful mind is free and open to learn,"
replied the crone pointedly.
"A mind that is full of certainty and absolutes is a prison of thought. There, nothing gets in and nothing gets out."
That's as may be, but how is one to learn something unless it is from someone who is certain about it? This old orc certainly had an interest in philosophy, but I was here looking for some real answers.
"So many ways,"
responded the orc, with yet another grin. Her face was old and in shambles, but she had this eagerness to her that prevented her from seeming ugly.
"What brings you to us? Does a human seek to join the cloister?"
"No!" I exclaimed, a little too forcefully. "No, sorry. Nothing like that. I'm just looking for information."
"A valuable commodity,"
assured the old orc woman.
"And what would a young human know about?"
I was far from young by human standards, but this orc seemed ancient by any standard, so I decided just to let that one go. Yes, I think," I said with complete lack of certainty. "What is the Echo?"
The cloister believe that a voice will have an echo long after the voice goes silent. Our voice went silent long ago, but the echo remains.
But what is the echo?
All this.
Replied the orc despondently.
Oh, you see, all that is. It is merely an echo of what was. This is not the world, but rather an echo of a world from long, long ago.
Putting aside how depressing that sounded, I decided to focus on what I was after. The world from long, long ago. That's what I'm talking about. What happened to it? The orc cut another tiny branch from the tree. I felt the stump of my arm twitch in sympathy.
Much has been written on such a topic. You are welcome to pursue our public library.
Please, just tell me what you can, I said with a slight pleading in my voice. The orc locked eyes with me.
A human thinks information and learning requires no effort. We provide the books and you provide the eyes. It is a fair exchange. I will show you to our library.
I can't read, I exclaimed, feeling a flush rise into my cheeks.
Ah,
Responded the orc.
now we're getting somewhere.
I didn't see how, unless the orc was only interested in my embarrassment.
A truth for a truth.
Continued the orc.
As you cannot read, I will assign you a task, and you will learn what it is that you seek.
I wasn't sure how I liked the idea of being assigned a task, but the promise of an answer was too tempting to ignore. Yes, okay, what would you have me do?
4 scholars there are, each steeped in great lore. I will send you to them, and you will return to me with what you have learned. A simple exchange of knowledge. The first master's not far away. He is studying in this very building. I will give you his name.
Yes, who is it? I was impatient.
First things first.
The orc stuck out a gnarled old finger.
Knowledge costs knowledge. I will give you a name, and you will tell me about your arm.
My arm. I glanced at the stump. The question was one I'd been asked again and again by so many people, but it still bothered me. I was attacked by a wild beast, was what I would tell people.
No, not how it happened. Tell me, what does it mean to you?
Asked the old orc crone with her toothless smile. Back in a foggy corner of my mind, I recall that Archie had asked me the same thing. What a curious question. It means that this world only punishes curiosity. I lived in a small community at the time, and there had been a magnificent golden creature spotted in the woods nearby. Some said it was like a wolf or a bear or even an elk, but only children had ever gotten a good look at it. The creature had come right up to them, but never hurt them. I was not a child, but I had heard stories of the creature and wanted to see it for myself. I tracked it through the woods day after day, and finally, I came face to face with it. I brought no weapon, and I swear I meant it no harm.
But the creature didn't see it that way.
Intoned the orc knowingly. I glanced at the stump where my arm had once been. No, it did not. Will you tell me of the broken world? The orc nodded.
A deal is struck.
She exclaimed.
In the North Hall, you will find an old scholar by the name of Dryad. He has spent many years pursuing knowledge of the old world. Ask him for the truth of what happened, and once you have your answer, return to me.